Hi everyone, and this is video number 2 about green building and grid cities, and we're going to talk about daylight and how we can use daylight, natural light, to reduce the use of electrical light, to reduce the use of energy, to provide us some light. Natural light is in fact a good thing to use instead of electric light because, as I mentioned, it's reducing the amount of energy being consumed, and it's also kind of having a better positive impact on the mood of the people. And so places like UCMSet has a lot of building that allows natural light to come in. And
So we all know
this
that
looks like
windows can
UCMSet.
provide a great view, right? But if they're placed in the right locations, they can also save you money on your utility bill. And they can help keep you more comfortable at home or work. It's called daylighting, and it takes a simple concept to a new level. Daylighting combines lots of things. Everything from the type of window, window placement, and interior design to control how sunlight comes in. They all work to maximize benefits from natural sunlight. Check this out. Windows that face south are best in the US. They let in the most light in the winter months, but little direct sun during the summer, keeping the inside cooler. North-facing windows are also good for daylighting. They let in even natural light with little glare and little summer heat. Windows that face east and west don't work nearly as well for daylighting. They do provide lots of light in the morning and afternoon, but it often comes with lots of glare and excess heat during the summer months. Have a look at this energy-efficient office building. The windows team up with skylights to provide most of the light you need. Notice the light color of the ceiling. It reflects and enhances the daylight so that it fills the room. And what about all the overhead lights? Most of the time, you don't need them. To account for glare, this office building placed hoods outside around the windows. The hoods also cut down on summer heat, keeping the office cooler and more comfortable. On the inside, louvers or tinting reduce glare and also direct light to reflective surfaces inside, allowing plenty of natural light to come into work areas. One big help to daylighting is the window technologies available today. Windows are now way more energy efficient. They insulate while still letting the light you want in. And have a look at this. It's an electrochromic window. This special window changes with the brightness of the sunlight outside. As the sun tracks across the sky, it darkens to keep excess heat out. It's like giant polarized sunglasses. Daylighting can have a positive effect. Studies have shown that with good daylighting at the office, productivity goes up and absenteeism goes down. And that's good for the bottom line. Natural lighting and heating means you use less electricity and lower your utility bill. And the more natural lighting, the more money you can save. So we all know that windows can provide a great view, right? But if they're placed in the right locations, they can also save you money on your utility bill. And they can help keep you more comfortable at home or work. It's called daylighting, and it takes a simple concept to a new level. Daylighting combines lots of things. Everything from the type of window, window placement, and interior design to control how sunlight comes in. They all work to maximize benefits from natural sunlight. Check this out. Windows that face south are best in the US. They let in the most light in the winter months, but little direct sun during the summer, keeping the inside cooler. North-facing windows are also good for daylighting. They let in even natural light with little glare and little summer heat. Windows that face east and west don't work nearly as well for daylighting. They do provide lots of light in the morning and afternoon, but it often comes with lots of glare and excess heat during the summer months. Have a look at this energy-efficient office building. The windows team up with skylights to provide most of the light you need. Notice the light color of the ceiling. It reflects and enhances the daylight so that it fills the room. And what about all the overhead lights? Most of the time, you don't need them. To account for glare, this office building placed hoods outside around the windows. The hoods also cut down on summer heat, keeping the office cooler and more comfortable. On the inside, louvers or tinting reduce glare and also direct light to reflective surfaces inside, allowing plenty of natural light to come into work areas. One big help to daylighting is the window technologies available today. Windows are now way more energy efficient. They insulate while still letting the light you want in. And have a look at this. It's an electrochromic window. This special window changes with the brightness of the sunlight outside. As the sun tracks across the sky, it darkens to keep excess heat out. It's like giant polarized sunglasses. Daylighting can have a positive effect. Studies have shown that with good daylighting at the office, productivity goes up and absenteeism goes down. And that's good for the bottom line. Natural lighting and heating means you use less electricity and lower your utility bill. And the more natural lighting, the more money you can save.
And again, that play a pretty good positive aspect benefit on the mood and mind of the people. You will see that UC Merced, for example, use a lot of daylighting. In particular, you can find, for example, classroom where you have the side lighting, which is in fact windows all on the side of the room that allows for full illumination, full light received within about 15 feet away from the windows, and a reduction of illumination of light coming in when you're about 30 feet away from the windows, usually where the instructor whiteboard is located, which allows at least for a good view of the light of the whiteboard, but also enjoying the natural lighting instead of using electricity. This is in fact an example of the Science and Engineering Building 2 that was built about 10 years ago. We also find other daylighting strategies, such as lighting coming from the top part, which is what we call top lighting, and also some clerestories. So the top lighting are in fact, I lost my pencils right here, sorry. The top lighting will be referring to those kind of tubes that you can find here that allows, or window that are on the ceiling and allows light to directly enter a room. Clerestory will be those windows that are on the ceiling, but they are kind of into an angle and allowing only incident light to come, and it is in some way less brightful than the top lighting that would come inside of the building directly. And there are different types of clerestory that exist to allow incident light to come in. So it's kind of diffusing a little bit more the light. That helps quite a lot, and we have most of the building at UC Merced using that strategy with the side lighting. Finally, for example, if you look at the dorms, you will find also the light shelf, which is not used to put your clothes and waiting for your clothes to dry, but in fact, it's to reflect some of the light and avoid the light to come into your bedroom or into your studio. During summertime, most of the sunlight will be in fact reflected by the light shelf, and less will enter into your room, warming less your room. But during winter time, most of the sunlight will be allowed to enter your room and to allow to warm up naturally your room. At the same time, it's allowing the room to receive enough light throughout all the years, with you reducing the amount of electricity being needed. So that's the part for lighting. What can we do as also to make a building greener? Well, we can in fact use vegetation. And so we can have different ways of placing vegetation in a building. We can first have vegetation on top of the buildings, which is in fact something that happens more and more. And this is what we call green roof. That allows for first, a lot of things happens with them. We have less sunlight being absorbed by the building and more reflection of the sunlight, cooling down the top part of the building that tend to be usually very, very warm. This allows for some retention of water and more humidity. This allows to have some vegetation, but also from some animals to come and to increase the biodiversity, the amount of organism in the cities, which is a good thing. It's helping to improve the air quality because thanks to photosynthesis, it will be absorbing the CO2. it will cool down locally. That place will go in some way in cooling down the temperature of the cities, reducing the amount of energy consumption that you use to cool down the building. So it has a lot of positive impact in itself.
Maybe you've never given much thought about what color your roof is or what it's made of. But your roof could be costing you more money than you know to cool your home or office building, especially if you live in a warmer climate. Think about it this way. In the summertime, we wear light-colored clothes because they keep us cooler. Lighter clothes reflect rather than absorb the heat of the sun. It's the same with your roof. A cool roof is often light in color and made of materials that have what's called high solar reflectance. That means it's able to reflect a lot of the sun's light that a conventional roof would absorb, heating up the building. You see, when the weather is warm, a conventional roof is the hottest place on the building. It can be well over 50 degrees hotter than the temperature outside. So if you don't have air conditioning, a lot of that discomfort you feel may be coming from the roof. If a building with a standard darker roof is air conditioned, the cost for comfort is much higher in order to counteract all that heat pouring in from above. Insulation slows the transfer of heat inside but doesn't eliminate it. Researchers have measured energy savings up to 10 to 15% for homes with cool roof coatings. And if a standard dark roof reaches 150 degrees or more, a cool roof can actually reduce the roof temperature a lot. A cool roof may only be 5 or 10 degrees warmer than the temperature outside on a hot sunny day. Alright, so here's a big plus for the environment. A cool roof helps mitigate a phenomenon known as the urban heat island. The temperature in developed urban areas tends to be 2 to 5 degrees warmer than surrounding areas. That's because ground covered by pavement and dark buildings absorbs more heat, so the heat stays in the atmosphere longer. A variation of the cool roof is the green roof, sometimes called a living roof. That's because flowers and plants and even a vegetable garden grow in a special soil system right on top of the building. Cool roofs aren't super high-tech, and that's part of their appeal. They're a relatively simple and effective way to improve our environment and lower energy costs.
So those green roof also has the advantage in comparison to the cool roof to just use vegetation, and like a cool roof that will be using mostly like white color. So we'll try to have like very bright light white painting on it, and that will be needing to be maintained over time, while the vegetation will be requiring quite less maintenance and will be cheaper over the time. We can also implement, instead of just a green roof, the green living walls, where the plants will grow on the side of the wall of some of the buildings, which allows for the same aspect, the same benefits, a cooling down of the partial parts of the building, a potential filtering of the air quality, the idea of also of getting some of the humidity being trapped in those walls, which allows, in fact, for a feeling of a cooler temperature, also providing more habitats to the biodiversity. So that has been a tendency to develop those green roof and those living walls in cities more and more, because we see the benefits of those. Finally, we can a lot of new buildings go with this idea of biophilic design, in which we are trying to connect the people to the nature by building a building with the nature integrated into it. That can be done by having windows that reflect, windows that are definitely showing, in fact, the nature very close to the people, and so you have this idea, this feeling of being part of the nature. It can be done also by integrating inside of malls some vegetation parts, some little ponds, also some little trees, plants, sometimes some animals also too, allowing for people to be inside of the building, to be more connected to the nature, and trying also to build buildings that are using more natural elements instead of concrete and products that are man-made, trying to use more material that are directly connected to nature in itself. And so with that, we will be, oh no, just one more things to mention before, after watching this movie.
From the warm sun on our face to the soothing sounds of a waterfall, nature has the power to ignite the mind and rejuvenate the soul. Whether we realize it or not, humans have an inherent connection to nature. But in today's world, as cities grow and we become more dependent on technology, we spend more, if not most of our time indoors, which means that fundamental connection has gotten, well, that's where biophilic design comes in. Bio what? We thought you might ask. Let's break it down. Biophilic comes from the word biophilia, meaning the love of life or living systems. Basically, it's the things in nature we love. And biophilic design harnesses that love and brings it indoors to create restorative environments for our physical and emotional well-being. It brings back that connection to nature that we all have. From workplaces and hospitals to urban living spaces and schools, studies have shown that adding biophilic elements to interiors and architectural design can reduce stress, blood pressure, and heart rates, while increasing productivity, creativity, and overall well-being. In short, we love nature, and it loves us back. So how do we incorporate biophilic design into our spaces? Well, there are lots of ways to bring the outdoors in. Combine organic forms with water features and outdoor views. Make subtle changes in air temperature and airflow. And add non-visual sensory stimuli like plant oils and calming sounds. Consider introducing patterns that mimic those in nature, such as natural colors, textures, and surfaces like wood and stone. All of these things work together to create a calming, restorative atmosphere for people to enjoy that provide a connection to the environment. And these are just some of the ways you can implement biophilic design. It isn't just about adding natural beauty to a space. It's about enhancing overall health and well-being too. Learn more about how to incorporate biophilic design into your spaces at interface.com/FYI.
Final word before the end of this video, we can also make buildings more eco-friendly and in fact cities more eco-friendly, which will be the topic of our next video, by developing buildings that are more biodiversity friendly, in this case more bird friendly, built, designed. Taking the example of bird, it's interesting to see that the majority of birds are killed because of collision with buildings. Not because of cat hunting or not because of wind turbines. You have the number, 30,000 birds killed every year by wind turbines, 100 million estimated by cats, and 500 million of birds killed by impact with buildings like that are very nice buildings, reflecting like mirrors, reflecting the sky and all the landscape, but birds don't see that and they just crash into it and unfortunately die. And so by rethinking, redesigning our buildings to make it more eco-friendly, we are in fact helping our cities in general to be more eco-friendly. And that will be the topic of our next videos. We're moving towards green cities by first looking at a couple of aspects that are bad with our cities before moving to the very last video on looking at what we need to do for our cities to be more eco-friendly. See you in a bit.